Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teal Dunbar, she, her pronouns, and we are here today to present information, hopefully useful to navigating your upcoming layoff. And so we will go over how to file unemployment insurance, how to maintain eligibility, what additional information is needed from workers like yourselves, from educational institutions. We will have a presentation on healthcare options and next steps available to you all. And we will have representatives from WorkSource talking about all the cool resources available through their local offices. So I want to remind presenters to please say next slide. Jason is new to this, so today's his first rapid response supporting me. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. And so yeah, please say next slide. And anyone who has a question, please just raise your hand on the screen or raise your hand icon. Either way works great, or you can message it in the chat and we'll be monitoring that as well. Also, throughout this presentation, we will put things into the chat that you can grab out and copy and paste for later. So documents, links, all sorts of good information. So we do encourage you to use that. And then this recording is going to be sent out after the fact. So please don't hesitate with questions. That's why we're here. Without further ado, Jason, go ahead and go to the first unemployment slide, which should be a few clicks over. And then Kelly, if you want to unmute, and we will kick off with our portion on unemployment insurance. Thanks everyone for being here.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Duvall, and I specialize in an area of um, employees that are or going to be laid off during recess periods or not have reasonable assurance that are school employees. So I have knowledge in this area and want to make sure that we give you as much information as we can to make this a smooth and comfortable transition in filing your claim in Francis and getting the assistance that you need. I want to start by saying that unemployment insurance is an eligibility-based program that you do have to qualify for. And the ways that you qualify are you have to have earned enough income via your wages reported from employers over an 18-month period. And we call that period a base period. And we review that information when a claim is filed and use that base period wage information to determine what your weekly benefit amount is. You have to not be working through no fault of your own. If there's a separation from work, that's anything other than a lack of work, meaning that you were fired from a job or you quit a job. An investigation is completed to determine your eligibility, and that investigation is called adjudication. And you must be able to work, available for full-time work, and actively seeking work during each week that you claim benefits when you file for unemployment. Next slide, please. So, how your weekly benefit amount is calculated, or the WBA, is we take a percentage of the base year wages of 1.25% to establish what your weekly benefit amount is. Now, we do review an 18-month period of time or 5 completed quarters, and we take the first 4 completed quarters of that 5-quarter period of time. You will receive a potential wage and benefit report after you file your initial claim, and that's going to list the employers that we're using and information that you'll see with regards to how your weekly benefit amount is established. If you believe that you have wages missing or you have questions with regards to the wages that are being used, you want to contact the agency as soon as possible, either by phone or through web notices from your Francis account, so that we can look and see if there's some wages missing or that there's something else that we need to look at for you. Currently, the minimum weekly benefit amount is $196 with the maximum benefit amount of $836. However, if you file effective July 1st, The minimum weekly benefit amount will be up to 204, and the maximum weekly benefit amount will increase to 872. If you file prior to July 1st, you would be at the older rate. And after July 1st, it's the new weekly benefit amount that will be established at that time. You can go to our website, and we do have a weekly benefit amount calculator where you can put in what your estimated wages are, and it would give you an estimate of what your weekly benefit amount would be when you file your claim. Next slide, please. So the first step to filing your claim for unemployment benefits is starting your Francis Online account. If you haven't started your Francis Online account, I'm going to tell you that is so important to do as soon as you can. And the reason is you have to receive an access letter from the employment department. And that access letter is going to have a code in it, questions in it, some type of security access for you to actually get your online portal started and then file your unemployment claim. If you wait, it takes 5 days, 7 days to get that letter, and it's the only way you can access your account. So you want to start that process right away to just to start your Francis account and get that information into our system and get your access letter. So that's the first step that you want to do, and you want to do that as soon as possible so there aren't any delays for you. And you can see on our here on the slide, it's going to be unemployment.oregon.gov, and you can click right on the hyperlink to Francis Online and go in and start your Francis account. Now, if you have filed for unemployment in the past or since we've rolled out to Francis, which would have been March of 2024, and you have filed an unemployment claim or a paid leave claim, you have a Francis portal that you're just going to reopen and get that process started again. As soon as you do restart a claim, if you have one, you will have to do an ID verification again. So just know that that's a step in there as well. Next slide, please. So this is what Francis Online is going to look like when you get into this system. The upper right-hand corner is where you're going to put in your login and password that you've created. You can also see that there's information that you can look at from this page with regards to the unemployment handbook or claimant handbooks accessible to you. You have the availability to log into your iMatch skills, which you'll be required to do, maintain your ID or your PIN number, and also the unemployment insurance homepage. You can also verify your identity here and look at other information with regards to paid leave Oregon. So again, this is the first thing that you'll see when you log in, and that you'll be accessing the system through your email and your password that you establish. Next slide, please. And so here is where you would see to sign up for your online account. And again, that's how you get started and get into your secure portal to start your Francis account. Just a look at what it's going to look like when you start that process. Next slide, please. And that's the same slide. I'm not sure if we've got a duplicate slide in there. So then thank you so much. So again, the first thing that you want to do is start your Francis account, and then you need to apply for your unemployment benefits. There are two ways to apply for benefits. You can file online, or you can do that over the phone. I would suggest to everybody use our online system as much as possible. Our hold times are typically 4 to 6 hours a day. It's very limited access through our phone system. So anything that you can do online that might be self-service or communicating to the agency through your Francis portal, I would suggest you do that. So filing your claim online is probably your best option. You do want to make sure that you do have your employer information available because Francis is going to ask you for employment history for the past 18 months. So you want to make sure that that's available to you. Once you've started your claim is going to be effective in the week that you start. And so after you've got your claim started, then you do have to claim each week going forward so that we know that you're requesting unemployment benefits for that week. And each week you're going to be asked a series of questions and you want to answer those questions. It's, are you available for work, able to work, actively seeking work? You do need to provide details of your work seeking activities, and those include 2 direct employer contacts, which are considered sending a resume out, applying for a job, speaking to an employer in person or over the phone, and 3 other work seeking activities each week. Those other seeking activities can be working on your resume, looking at different job sites, going to your work source office and participating in workshops there, interview practicing, and using those services that are available to you there. Next slide, please. And so again, here is what you would see for logging onto your Francis Online account, or you can call the phone number for unemployment services there as 877-345-3484. But again, our hold times are extremely long. So anything that you can do through your Francis portal, I would suggest that's how you communicate to the agency. Next slide, please. This is an opportunity here where you can send a message to the agency. And so when I say to communicate through your Francis portal, you can actually go from your home page to I want to and messages and send a message to the agency. And then that will be reviewed by a representative and they'll respond back to you or take action on a request that you may have made. You can also see messages that the agency has sent to you. You can also, on this page, see the Action Center. If you have an indication of a number on that Action Center, there's something that the agency needs you to do. If that's complete a questionnaire or to answer questions or claim a week, all of that information would be there at your Action Center. Next panel, please. So when you claim a week of benefits, on your home page, you're going to see a text box that's similar to this, that's going to say, here's the week that you need to claim. It's ready for you to file, and you're going to say file now. Once you do that, you're going to get the series of, excuse me just a moment, my kitten just crawled up on my desk. You're going to get a series of questions that you have to answer again each week that are certifying you're able to work, available for work, and actively seeking work, as well as your work seeking activities. So when those are available for you, which is a Sunday, you're going to see those available. You can go in and file now, and it's going to give you access to the week to claim. The thing you want to know about this is you only have 7 days to claim the week from the beginning of the week to the end of the next week. You've got 7 days. If you miss that period of time, this opportunity is going to disappear from your Francis portal. You're not going to be able to claim that week after 7 days. So it's really important that you do claim that timely. We don't have any backdating ability right now, so you do have to claim that within the 7 days. Next slide, please. One of the things that we have an opportunity for you to do is receive your payment for unemployment either through direct deposit to your account or through a Relay Card Visa. When you sign up for your Francis portal, you have the opportunity right on your Francis account to put in your direct deposit information and provide that to the agency so that process can get started. If you don't sign up for direct deposit, you will receive what's called a Relay Card Visa, and all future benefits would be paid to that visa. Now that looks like a debit card, a credit card offer that comes to you in the mail. It comes in a plain white envelope. It doesn't have any information with the agency associated to it. So if you don't sign up for direct deposit, make sure that you're watching for that, because we have had a lot of folks not think it's anything that's of importance and discard that, but it is where your benefits would be paid if you don't sign up for direct deposit. Next slide for me. And this is what it's going to look like when you want to sign up for direct deposit. You're going to, again, to your homepage to more, and you're going to your payment channel, and you can set up to manage your payments and sign up for direct deposit here. Next page for me. And again, it's going to walk you right through all of the information that's needed to start that direct deposit for you. Next slide for me. When you file a claim for unemployment benefits, any benefits that you receive are taxable income. And you have the option of either filing to have nothing withheld from your benefit amount, state withheld, federal withheld, or both withheld. Federal is withheld at 10% and state is withheld at 6%. And you select those options when you start your initial claim filing. Through the course of your claim, you can only change those withholdings through written notice to the agency. So it's really important that you review that information and make that selection at the time that you file your claim for unemployment. And do know that you would receive a 1099 from the agency at the end of the year with regards to what the tax liability is for the benefit amount you received. Next slide for me. So there are requirements when you first file for unemployment benefits. The first requirement is you have to complete your iMatch skills. This is a profile that you establish that's basically your employment history, your skill set, you upload a resume, and that can be done through the website. And that's the first step to what we call the welcome process. The second step for that is you need to actually meet with a WorkSource representative and complete the welcome process. And they're going to go over services that are available at your WorkSource office, things that they can assist you with to become reemployed at the earliest opportunity. They'll give you information with regards to classes and possibly other services that might be available that you can use. So those are two steps that are required, and you have a deadline to meet those two steps. And you're going to receive notification through your Francis portal that tells you what your deadline is. So it's really important that you watch for that letter. Also, as part of that requirement, you do have to do ID verification. And that ID verification has to be done within 14 days of the date you file your initial claim. And you can either do that in person now at the WorkSource office or using the QR code that will come on a letter. You can go to the Postal Service and do your ID verification through the US Post Office. Now, there are certain requirements for the ID verification, and those are going to come in your letter that tell you what you have to prove your identity to the employment department. Next slide for me.
And Kelly, we'd just like to let people know right now that there's two ID verification processes because there's one through Francis and then one at
Yes.
WorkSource. So we've just been flagging that since that's a
Yes.
newer thing. So I just
So the
wanted to throw it
one
in.
through Francis is actually going to come, and you have to do that anytime you make a change to your account. If you restart your account, if you change your direct deposit, if you actually change the equipment that you're using to access your Francis account. So you've been using a desktop computer and now you're using your phone. Francis is going to ask you to re-verify your ID. And although that seems cumbersome, it's to protect you and keep your claim from being hijacked. And that's our purpose. So this is the page that's going to come to you and tell you what your ID verification requirements are. And you have to have two primary pieces of ID, which will be listed here. or one primary piece of ID and two secondary pieces of ID for your in-person ID verification. And again, that's going to be on that letter that comes to you with the deadline so that you can look at that and have that information with you when you go complete the process. Next slide for me. So again, I know I've said this a few times, but it's so important. Each week that you claim benefits, you have to meet these eligibility requirements. And those are, you must be able to work. And what that means is that you're both physically and mentally capable of performing the type of work that you're seeking each week that you claim. You don't have a physical limitation. You can perform the work that you do. You're not sick. All of that has to be done every week for you to meet the eligibility requirements. You also must be available for work. And that means that you must be willing to work both full-time, part-time, be willing to accept temporary or permanent work, and be available for work during all of the customary hours and days for the type of work that you're seeking. Being available also means that you're capable of accepting and reporting for suitable work opportunities in your labor market. And your labor market is established by your address. And when you go to your work source meeting, they're actually going to tell you, here's the area that you have to be willing to accept work within. And that's your established labor market to accept and seek work. And again, you must be actively seeking work during each week that you claim benefits. To meet that requirement, that's 5 work seeking activities during each week, with 2 of those being direct employer contacts, where you've submitted a resume, applied for a job, contacted an employer in person or over the phone, had an interview, and 3 other work seeking activities that include updating your resume, looking at job sites, or attending the WorkSource workshops. Now, I will tell you, it is so important to maintain the details of your work seeking activities. If you're looking at work searches online, and let's say you're looking at LinkedIn, if you've applied for a job on LinkedIn, write down a reference number, write down any information that's available with regards to the type of work that you're seeking, maybe an employer name that's available. Because if you continue to just say LinkedIn over and over, it may raise a question with regards to your work seeking activities. So just make sure that you include as much information as possible on your work search. Next slide for me. Any person that files a claim for unemployment benefits, the first week that they would otherwise be eligible for benefits is called a waiting week. And no payment is issued for that week, but it has to be claimed. So you don't want to wait for your waiting week. If you aren't working or you make under your weekly benefit amount for that first week, make sure you claim that week so that you can get your waiting week served. So you want to make sure that you get that right away. And you only have 1 waiting week per claim, but you want to make sure that that first week that you would otherwise have eligibility, you claim that week, and so that you can serve that waiting week. You want to make sure that if you travel outside the labor market and you're away for more than half the week, you may not be eligible for unemployment benefits. And we do ask that question every week that you claim. Were you away from your permanent residence for more than 3 days this week? So if you travel, if you go on vacation and you're out of your labor market for more than 3 days, there will be a review set up on your claim for that week where we would have to determine if you meet the exceptions for being outside of your labor market. Otherwise, you wouldn't have eligibility for the week. Next slide for me. Other things to be aware of with regards to availability that could impact your eligibility for unemployment is not having childcare, having a lack of transportation. Again, if you're sick for more than half the week or you're hospitalized, if you're attending school and those school hours are during the same time as your customary hours that you would be expected to work, if you're self-employed or start your own business, and if there's a restriction on your shift or days that you can work. Those are all availability issues that may impact your eligibility for unemployment and would have to be reviewed by an adjudicator to determine if you would be eligible. Next slide for me. So unemployment insurance, when you file a claim, is a 52-week period that you have a claim established for. And within that 52-week period, you have a maximum of 26 weeks worth of eligibility. So if you filed a claim and you claimed 4 or 5 weeks and you got a new job and you worked for 6 months and you lost that job due to no fault of your own, or you were temporarily laid off, your claim's still in effect, and you would just restart your claim and begin to claim again as it's open or active for 52 weeks, but with 26 weeks within that period of time. There's no need to close your claim if you do start working. You simply stop claiming benefits, and the system recognizes that we wouldn't pay you for any future weeks unless you restarted your claim and claimed at a later date. Next slide for me. So I know this is the information that you want to hear with regards to how this impacts your unemployment claim. So school employees under federal law are prohibited from using wages from an educational employer during breaks or recess periods. There are exceptions, and there's been a change to the statute that took place last year, but our system can't recognize automatically whether you meet the exception or you have to be reviewed. And so when you claim a period of time that is a recess, someone like myself has to review that period of time to determine your eligibility. Folks that are considered school employees are anyone who works for a public or private school service, and that has to be reviewed. We do look now at only those that are performing instructional, research, and principal administrative services more than 50% of the time. That's who the law now applies to, effective January 7th, 2024. And all of that has to be reviewed by a representative to determine whether you fall into that exception or not. Next slide for me. So what's a break period? A break period is the time frame in an academic year when school employees may not be scheduled to work, and there may be a difference from institution to institution regarding the time, the length of recess, whether it's a holiday, a vacation period, or what's called a break between years. So for lower education, a break between years is basically summer recess. And we look at that academic break between years and determine what work you've done for the entire year previously, what wages you earned, what your weekly benefit amount was, and all of that has to be reviewed. Next slide for me. On our unemployment site, there is information available for school workers. And you can go to the site and you can look specifically at how that might impact you. And so you want to make sure, if you have questions, this is a great resource. You can look at frequently asked questions. This has been updated. So that information is available for you there under resources and school workers. Next slide for me. So you're going to receive a questionnaire from us through your Francis portal. And it's really important that you provide information on that questionnaire as thoroughly as possible. What I would suggest to you is, when you file your initial claim for unemployment benefits and you indicate your employment history, there is a section that says job duties. You want to be as specific as possible with regards to the work that you perform for your employer as an educational employer. So let's say you did work as a substitute teacher. You would want to say you do substitute teaching work, this many hour, you average this many hours a week in that job duty, so that we can look at that and reference that information to determine whether you may be in a professional capacity as an as performing instruction. You also, when you get this questionnaire, and I want to repeat this question because this is super important and really applies to you. One of the questions that you're going to be asked is, do you spend more than 50% of your time working in an educational, or excuse me, of your employment working in an educational service district office? Okay. So the difference is, do you work in the ESD office? If you work in the ESD office 50% or more of the time, answer that question yes. If you're assigned to a school, you're going to answer that question no. Once you answer that question no, you're going to have additional questions that you need to complete with regards to what you do in the school that you work in. But so important, because you work for an ESD, that you answer this question whether you work in office at the ESD or you work in a school for the ESD. So you want to make sure when you get to that question that question is going to specifically apply to your employment that you do with ESD. Also, I understand that this is a reduction in force. You want to make sure that you include your reduction in force letter, if you've received it, as an attachment to your questionnaire that you're completing on your Francis account. One of the things that we have to determine when we're looking at someone who may not be able to use these wages is if they have what's called reasonable assurance to return in the next academic period. By including that reduction in force letter, we can see that you don't have reasonable assurance with Multnomah ESD, and then we may ask questions about other work offers that you may get for the next academic period. So make sure that you include your reduction in force letter. Make sure that, and I'll repeat that question again. Do you spend more than 50% of your time working in employment in an ESD or employment service district office? So that's the key there, is whether you're actually working in office or you're working in a school assigned by ESD. Next slide for me. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions and see if we can get some additional information for you. Now's your opportunity. I'll be here through the entire presentation, so if you think of something else, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those for you now.
I do have.
Heather, y'all can go ahead. I think you're going to have to mute one of your connections.
Okay.
And Kelly, while Heather's doing that, I always like to prompt, since we have our union folks on here, about the question asking about union, because I want to make sure they don't answer that one in a way that would stall their benefits. Do you mind just
Sure,
speaking
you
to that real
bet.
quick? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So although you might be a member of the union, there is a question that asks if you're a member of a closed union. And what that question means is, can you only get work assigned to you by your union hiring hall? And typically that's going to be the plumbers union, excavation, construction. So if you can go and get work on your own, where you don't have to go through your union for work, you are not a member of a closed union. So it's really important, because that can impact your eligibility. So you always want to make sure, unless you can only get work through your union hiring hall, you're not a member of a closed union. I also want to add there's been some confusion with regards to the new exception. We, as an agency, cannot look at job title, certification, or whether you are a licensed instructor. We have to look at whether the job duties that you do include instruction. So if you work one-on-one or you work in a small group, all of those questions with regards to time and whether that's more than 50% are crucial, because we can't base a decision just based on you're an educational assistant, an instructional assistant. Um, we have to do it based on what your duties actually are with students, one-on-one or in group settings, to determine whether we have to review your wage eligibility for the break periods.
Can you
And
hear me
Kelly,
now?
oh yeah, hi. Hold on one second, Heather. And Kelly, I know that would be important also if someone were to get perhaps an offer letter at a new school while they're on a claim. And so even though they're
Yes.
reduced right now, they might get a new one with a new offer with a new school, and
Yeah,
that would mean you would need to use the wages differently. Is that
that's
correct?
correct. That's correct. If you receive reasonable assurance while you've been had a reduction in force now, and you've received an offer for the next academic year, let's say it happens in July or August, you need to let the agency know so that we can review that offer to determine whether reasonable assurance now applies.
Thank you. And
Mhm.
everyone, use your profile to attach your reduction in force letter because that's going to help the employment department understand that you don't have reasonable assurance and get your benefits going as quickly as we can because that's what we want for y'all.
Can you hear me now without an echo? Okay, I had to mute you because I have two screens going. The question I got was the end of the school year for some people are like this week, but their layoff letter is dated July 1st. Can they apply this week?
Yes, anyone can apply for unemployment benefits. Just make sure you include that RIF letter. Um, what I would say is, I did look online before we started the session. The actual recess period that's been reported to us by Multnomah ESD is June 13th through September 5th. So we would only begin to start looking at school employee issues the week of June 15th, once that's been claimed. So if school is ending early for some, that's fine. We are only going to start looking at the recess period issue the week of June 15th for Multnomah ESD. But absolutely, even though your RIF letter is it's not effective until July 1st, it's RIFed. You don't have reasonable assurance to go back with the next academic period.
Thank you for that. That'll
Mm-hmm.
make it easier.
And Heather, something to keep in mind, Kelly touched on in the very beginning, is that the benefit amount, if someone opens an initial claim now through the end of the month, the benefit amount is a slightly lower numbers, like the range, versus if somebody opens their initial claim July 1st and beyond that date, that's when the benefit amounts, the windows increase. I believe the maximum was 872, the minimum would
Yes.
be 204. So that might have an impact on some people as well, as far as when they decide to open their initial claim, because that's
And
when you're locked into the rate.
there's a significance difference in the maximum. So if somebody is eligible for the maximum, it might be worth waiting until the week of July 1st to file that initial claim, if you don't have a claim already in the system.
So I just got a chat question, Kelly, about I think the Francis L code, the letter that will come before they can complete the Francis registration process. And they're just wondering, Kaylin, I hope I'm not butchering your name. How long does it take to get the Francis ID? And if we don't get it in that time frame, what actions do we then take?
So it can take 5 to 7 days. The key to this is if you have filed for unemployment benefits previously with a different mailing address, you need to make sure that you update that address before you request that Francis letter, or it's going to go to a prior address. So you want to make sure that you do that. If you don't receive that letter, there are steps to request a new letter. And you can either do that by sending a contact us notice, or the local WorkSource office can assist you with getting a new, they can't give you the access letter, but they can assist you in requesting a new access letter.
Can they also do that through the OWL chat, Kelly?
Yes, through the
Is
live
that
chat. Mm-hmm.
okay? Okay. Okay. So I had
Mm-hmm.
put that in the chat while you were speaking, but for anyone who didn't see, there's an owl icon.
It's a small little owl icon, and it's technically a live chat with a claims representative that can assist you with things like that. Setting, if you need to reset your password, if you need to get that access letter because it didn't come through, things that they can't do, they're really specific with, like they can't do your ID verification. They can't, there's certain things they cannot do through that owl option, but you want to make sure that the address that the employment department has of record is your most recent address before you request that access letter.
And we've been told the golden ticket is to just immediately type live agent.
Okay.
And that will like get through the bots and get you in the queue, and that the queue is a lot shorter than if you
Yes.
call in.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Bob, did you want to ask or mention anything?
Yeah, so my name's Bob. I work out of the Tigard WorkSource office. I'm on the phones a lot, and even though I don't work on the unemployment side, I know a lot of the pitfalls that people fall into. The biggest one, honestly, is the initial process of getting registered and the L letter. The most common experience is that people go to sign up and then they are not given an option to add in an address. It means the system has an address already for you. Can't view that address though. The system, for whatever reason, will not tell you what that address is, and you won't have an option to change it. If you believe you need to change it, do the live chat there and then. Just contact live chat and just say live agent. It'll tell you how long the wait is. You choose your language, your name, put in your question. They can confirm with you what the address needs to be. If it does ask you what your address is, then you should be good to go. That is honestly the biggest thing. The next thing that is quite common is, I know we touched on the adjudication process a little bit, but there are two kind of types of adjudication in the sense that one type of adjudication can be for a specific week only, and the rest of your claim, the following week, you're fine to claim because it could just be maybe the system thought you were away for a week and maybe you weren't for whatever reason. So that particular week is on hold. Then your next claims the week after are fine. Another type of adjudication could be maybe you refused employment. So now, until that has been adjudicated, your subsequent claims will not be fulfilled. You will not be given any money for that. However, you should continue claiming on those weeks. So let's say week 10, that week has become an adjudicated week because the system thinks you refused a job offer. Until that has been resolved, you won't receive any benefit. However, provided you keep claiming those weeks that you're waiting for it to be adjudicated, if the adjudication decision goes in your favor, you can claim all of those back weeks. So if it's a 6-week adjudication, you would get 6 times your benefit weekly amount. If you do not claim for those 6 weeks, your claim, even if it files in your favor, the adjudicator says, yep, you're okay. We understand that there was an error on our end or whatever it might be. You cannot claim those 6 weeks back if you didn't put your claim in for that week. And that's something that comes across a lot because on the letters that you receive, it will say keep claiming, keep claiming. So please make sure to claim because there's no backtracking on that. And one final personal point from my own experience with UI was you get the up to 26 weeks worth of benefit. If you are denied for a particular week, that doesn't subtract from your 26-week bucket. You still get that week. It just essentially moves to the end of the 26-week claim. And that was something that panicked me a little bit when I went back to the UK for a couple of weeks. I didn't get that 2 weeks, and I thought I had lost those 2 weeks. It just meant it moved to the end of the line. That's it. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. That's all very relevant information, especially since you answer calls all day about these kind of matters. So we appreciate that. Folks, we're here to try to strip away barriers and alert you to anything that might trip up your claim. And Bob's right. If when in doubt, just keep claiming and let the employment department figure out if you're eligible or not, because we don't want you to miss out on benefits. So thank you, Bob. That was very, very helpful. Kelly, thank you so much. Do we have other questions for Kelly? Because I don't see any in the chat. I don't see any icons up, but Kelly will be here. So if something pops into your mind and you want to ask, there'll be opportunity at the end. You can also, through the Zoom, send a direct message and get your question answered that way. So that was great. Thank you, Kelly, for the thorough presentation and really just taking something super complicated and really making it accessible. So thank you for that. We know it was a lot of information, and the rest of the presentation will be in much shorter increments. So just we like to kind of flag that as well for y'all. So great job, everybody. Stick with us. I'm going to bring up Emily from WorkSource to connect the dots on maintaining eligibility for unemployment through a couple activities you have to do at WorkSource, but then all the things beyond that WorkSource can offer in your seeking your next job. So with that, Emily, come on up.
All right. Thank you for being here. I know this is lots of information thrown at you at the end of the workday, so we will be efficient. Let's go on to the next. I think it's two more slides for some reason. So WorkSource, you're going to engage in WorkSource as part of your unemployment insurance process. You will set up first what they call a personal account, which is your iMatch account, iMatch Skills. Teal did a nice thing and put the link for that in the chat. I always encourage people during classes to go ahead and click on all those links, pull them up in your tabs so that when you're ready, you can go back to them and you don't have to search for them again. So you'll set up your iMatch Skills account, and then when you're done, it'll say that you need to come in and verify your identification with WorkSource. So you'll come into a WorkSource office. Let's go ahead and move forward. This is just information about the background of WorkSource. And WorkSource is here to help you to navigate this career transition and get you back to work and provide you some support. So you'll come into the WorkSource office and you'll complete a welcome process. Let's go to the next slide, please. And you'll meet somebody at the front desk and say that you're here for your welcome process for unemployment. We take walk-ins from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if you want to schedule an appointment, you can schedule a virtual appointment. But I hear that the wait times are long enough that most people that are wanting to do a timely UI claim prefer to do a walk-in appointment. And my little tidbit, insider tidbit on walk-ins is either come early in the morning. You might have a few other people waiting with you there when the doors open at 8:30, but you'll get in to see somebody pretty soon. But I would definitely avoid the lunch hour because the employees are taking lunch at different times and they are usually understaffed and the wait times get really long right during and right after lunch, so between 12 and 1:30. So I'd avoid that window. Sometimes afternoons are slower too. Okay. The other things, so that's how you will be introduced personally to WorkSource if you haven't already been engaged with WorkSource in the past. Then they may, during the welcome process, tell you about other services that WorkSource has. But in case they don't, we're here to tell you about them today. One thing that we can help with is sometimes you're like, hey, I want a stable job and I really am interested in the medical field right now because I hear that they're hiring a lot of medical aides or phlebotomy, that kind of thing. And you want to get a training in it. You can engage at WorkSource and ask to apply for a scholarship for training funds. Um, you can find information about this. I'll put it in the chat when I'm done talking. I have a hard time doing both things at once. But if you're interested in a training and you want to get a head start and looking into what would qualify for a WorkSource training scholarship and what would not, go to WorkSource Portland Metro and click on training, and there's this information there. I'll put that in the chat when the next person is speaking. And then we have a lot of online and in-person workshops. We have, and you get to those, I'll put this link in the chat too through myworksource.org, where you can sign up for workshops on resumes, interviews, networking, career exploration. You're like, I need to change jobs, but I don't know what direction I want to go. There's people that will teach you some tools and show you resources for that. Um, and yeah, so all kinds of things. The next slide gives a list of, we can go ahead and go to it. Oh, I forgot this one. This one is some of the different workshops that we have. So that's WorkSource in a nutshell. Please let me know if you have any questions. We are here to support you, and all of our services are free and open to anyone that's looking for work. So it's a really nice resource to have to get access to these classes and things.
I think the next slide. Oh, yeah, that one is good because it tells you that engagement qualifies for.
Yes. Thank you. I got excited, like, okay,
Okay.
I read that. So the last little bit is engagement does qualify as a work-seeking activity. So if you come to my class on resumes or interview preparation, you can write those down as a work-seeking activity for your unemployment insurance activities that week, and all of the resources are free. I think we mentioned that. Yep.
And there's one more slide, I think,
Yep.
just with location. So if anyone wants to see
Yeah.
which one might be closest to them.
This is a way to look for where your closest WorkSource center is to your home. That's usually the best bet for where you're going to engage with services. And then I think there's one more about additional. No, good. We did it. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll put information in the chat on where to access um, information about training scholarships if you want to look into that, and information about just work seeking workshops for like resumes and interview practice and that kind of thing.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate that. And yeah, for WorkSource, I think the best thing is walk in, let them know what you're interested in, let them know what you're looking for because they are the experts. They're there to help you. They'll take as much time as they need. They've got computers and printers. So really just lean in. Everything is cost free and they're just full of great information and resources and training opportunities. So with that, Bob from WorkSource will follow up with just one more awesome component of WorkSource and resources available to you as you're seeking your next employer.
Thank you. I will be as brief as possible on this. Three main things that I want to do and mention is, so as previously mentioned, as part of your UI claim, you do need to create your iMatch skills account. When you see it, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll notice that it's a little bit dated in how it looks. It is a couple of decades old, and we are in the process of modernization. But the thing to keep in mind is that what it does and the system that it is reliable and it's secure, and it's a really, really good resource. My job, my main role day to day, aside from answering the phones, is working with employers and helping them get registered on the platform, helping them list jobs, and then other people on my team will source job seekers for some of those jobs if the employer requests it. The reason that we recommend iMatch Skills is because any job that is listed there has to be listed by an employer who has been approved as a real Oregon employer. And one of the main things that I do day in, day out is validating employer. By all means, use any resource you can find in your job search, but just please bear in mind, especially in the past few years, LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, all these other websites, there are scams, there are fake jobs, there are list building jobs that companies just take your information and keep you on a spam list. Companies can't do that with us. If you want to have access to our system, you have to prove it by providing that you are registered at the federal and the state level. Otherwise, you do not qualify to be on the platform, as the platform is paid for by payroll taxes. If you're not paying payroll taxes in Oregon, or you're not at least set up to pay them, you can't have access to the platform. In saying that, the jobs that are listed, also we tell companies as part of the deal is it must be a real job. And whatever they say about the job in terms of the wages, the length, the location, has to be real. The only issue we really come across is if an employer lists a job, maybe they fill the job, but they don't take the listing down. In my experience, I've not come across any issues of fraud or a false job. I don't want to say it's never happened, but we like to think that in general, we're pretty locked in regards to who we let on the platform and who can list. Another benefit of using iMatch Skills is a lot of employers who list on there, the application process is a phone number and email address as opposed to an application form. Many employers do just still use their application form. I'm not saying it's only phone or emails, but when you have a job there, it is a call or it is an email. You're one step ahead because you've got a direct contact with that employer. When you set up your iMatch Skills account, make sure that you list all of your experience, your skills, your capabilities as clear as possible. The reason for that is because there are two ways that a company can list their jobs with us. They can list them as something we call a self-referral. Essentially, that means the company can create the job listing and leave it there. And if people find it, they can apply to it. You would run a match for your skills to find jobs. That job would pop up. You would apply to it. On the flip side, the company can also click match on their job and it will match them to the listed people that have those skills. Depending on how you set your preferences, they won't have contact information for you. They will just have a trigger button that essentially triggers an email to you that they can't see. They don't know your email address or where it's gone unless you allow that when you set up your account. And you would then get a notification that says, hey, this job looks like it fits for you. Would you like to apply? The other type of job listing we have is a staff assisted, and the staff is us, and we assist the company with finding job seekers. Connected with that, then, because when we do, excuse me, when we work a job for a business, we create the listing and we screen for that position. We don't hire, we don't recruit, but we will match you we will run a match in the system ourselves and then give you a call and speak to you. And if we feel you're a good fit, we'll refer you over to the employer. Whether the employer hires you, we don't know, and we don't offer any guarantee, but it's another foot in the door and a more direct connection to the employer. Connected with that, and this is something I encourage you to do, and I'd love to just tell you to do it, but I encourage you in the strongest possible way. When you go to WorkSource, tell the person you speak to that you want to become work ready. Tell them you want to be work ready. And that just involves them going a little bit more in depth in your iMatch Skills profile. You might not be able to get it all done in one visit, maybe one more, maybe another one on top, depends how much you need to do. The reason for that is because when we run a match, when my team is going in and employer says, hey, I'm looking for 5 people for this position, the first filters that we look for is vets or spouses of vets, because they always get priority of service. And then the next level is work ready. So you are in a smaller pool, and you are more likely to be given a call and said, "Hey, we think this job might be a good fit." Um, Something to mention on this: if you are claiming unemployment and you are in iMatch Skills, and someone on my team connects a job with you, and we call you and we discuss the wage, the location, the job duties, and you agree, yes, I would like to apply for this job, please send my information over. If that employer tells us that this person didn't contact us, that would be reported to unemployment. So please note that if you are contacted about a job and the wage is good, the location is good, the job is good, and a reasonable person in your situation would move further with this job, if you don't follow up, then it can be reported to UI. On the flip side, if the employer doesn't respond to you, then that's fine. That's nothing to do with you. Or if we call you and we find out, hey, it's not quite what you're looking for, and it's a valid reason and we understand why, then that's no problem. But please just bear that in mind. Um, the last thing I want to mention is the website qualityinfo.org. It is a website where you can find jobs and you can find state reported data about the labor market and salaries, current hiring, like what the employment or unemployment rate is in a particular position. Something like Glassdoor, it's all just anyone can put in whatever they want. Oh, I did this job and I got paid this much. There's no checks and balances. With Quality Info, every single job has a particular code. That code, when an employer reports a wage, it's reported against that job code. So in Quality Info, if you look up your job, it will say, this is the median income in Oregon for this wage. I think you can do it by location, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I think you can. You can definitely do a job search by location. You can do a keyword search, and that's something that's important as well, is some people who have worked in a particular industry, such as teaching, for a long time, they associate their skills only with teaching. Quality Info will tell you what that position and people who have that experience, what other jobs might be a good fit for you that you may not have thought of. And the representative from WorkSource can go over this with you as well. I would just recommend that because, again, just like iMatch Skills, it's something that is um, operated by the state and it is state reported. It's not something that's anyone can put whatever they want. It's accurate data and information. And you can also see labor markets where if you are considering moving for whatever reason, there could be something as you're moving into it. And then you can cross match that with your iMatch skills search and say, okay, well, I'm moving to Eugene. Let me look at iMatch skills and the jobs in Eugene and see if there's anything there. I don't think there's anything else on that. So in short, do iMatch skills really well? Make sure you get work ready and qualityinfo.org. And please use live chat for unemployment because it's a lot quicker. I always like to reinforce that because it's a common inquiry.
Yeah, and it's a newer feature, so people
Mhm.
don't know about it. And so we want to get the word out. Thank you so much, Bob. That was very informative. We threw that qualityinfo.org link into the chat, so you can copy and paste that before we end today. But that's a great resource, especially if you're considering a change in career. Like Bob said, you have all these skill sets, but you may not understand all the ways they can be applied in other career paths. So super cool resource for you guys. Michael from Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace. We will bring up Michael now.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to just talk briefly about some different health insurance options that are out there. Next slide, please. They're going to be grouped into two programs or two buckets. The public side is going to have Oregon Health Plan, the Bridge Plan, Medicare, and VA benefits. And on the private health insurance side, there's going to be employer-sponsored coverage, of course, COBRA, to continue that coverage after employment, direct coverage through an insurance carrier and then coverage that you would get through the marketplace. The only place to get help paying for the coverage is through the marketplace. So we definitely recommend starting there for folks that are concerned about losing benefits. Next slide, please. So starting with the COBRA program, if you chose to try to continue that coverage that you have as an active employee, some folks do that, and it can make sense, but generally speaking, it's the most costly way to keep coverage in force and doesn't typically make the most sense. Typically, you'll pay the full cost of what you paid, your employer paid on your behalf, and an administrative fee to keep that in force. So pretty expensive. Generally lasts 18 or 36 months, depending on how the contract was set up. But once you get in, it's kind of tricky to get out and navigate getting different coverage. So just some things to keep in mind. Next slide, please. So private health insurance, as I mentioned, you can go directly through an insurance carrier. You can also go through the marketplace. The better choice is the marketplace because you have a real chance to compare plans. When you go directly through a carrier, you're really only going to see the offerings of that carrier. And so it'll be up to you to go out and do the homework and try to figure out, well, how does that plan compare to a typical plan with another carrier in the same region? Really hard to do that and come out on top. And again, with the marketplace, you have the opportunity to go in and get help paying for coverage, which is super great. You can look at plans side by side and kind of really have a chance to do an apples to apples comparison of the plans. In either case, though, you do have to look at this during open enrollment typically, or through a special enrollment period, which would be like losing coverage to an employer. So you do have 60 days from the day your coverage ends to get in and get new coverage. So keep that date or that time frame in mind. Next slide, please. So types of financial help. We talked about getting help paying for coverage. That looks like premium tax credits are going to help to reduce those monthly costs, and you can use those on any marketplace plan. Cost share reductions are going to really help reduce the out-of-pocket costs. So things like co-pays and co-insurance, even deductibles and maximum out-of-pockets can be reduced really substantially by the cost share reductions. They are only usable on the silver level plan unless you happen to be American Indian or Alaska Native, and then you can actually apply those to any plan. But generally speaking, the silver level plan is where those work, and that's frankly where they make the most sense anyway. Next slide, please. So Oregon Health Plan Plus, talked about that. That's the Medicaid program in Oregon. It's completely free to you. It's based on typical eligibility criteria, so family income, household size, age, pregnancy status, and then of course sometimes folks that are um, uh, able to get qualified at higher income levels, depending on if they happen to be have blindness or sometimes age will trigger it, and then some disabilities as well. And it's open all year, so there's no open enrollment period necessary for that. Thank you, Teal. I see that we just had the information for the Washington benefits put in there, so that's great. I neglected to think about that where we're at here, that some of you might likely be in Washington. Very similar to the information I'm giving you, but they're definitely going to have their own spin on it in Washington. Next slide, please. So the bridge plan was new this year. It's to allow folks at higher income levels to still qualify for Oregon Health Plans. So same type of coverage, still state-based Medicaid coverage, still free, similar eligibility requirements or criteria. And it's also available all year. Again, just allowing folks that are a little bit higher than the typical qualification window for OHP to qualify for the program. Next slide. So for Medicare, if you're 65 or older, sometimes younger if you have certain disabilities, it is done through the federal government, so it's going to be administered through Social Security. It's going to have similar signups to the private coverage. You're going to have an initial enrollment period, and then of course there'll be windows of time that open, such as if you lose employer-sponsored coverage, it's open a similar special enrollment period for you to apply in the Medicare program if you're eligible as well. Next slide, please. So a couple of different programs that are out there that can help you save on your costs for both medications and medical care, are the Medicare Savings Program and the Limited Income Subsidy. Both of these can be really useful, but in different ways. One's more on the medical side, the other's more on the trying to help lower those prescription drug costs. But you can find information on both of those at the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Oregon, and their contact information's at the bottom of this slide. They're a great resource. Next slide, please. Another good resource that we partner with is called Shiva. It's the Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance. And they're basically volunteers that can help you. And they have a wealth of knowledge around Medicare and kind of those programs that interlink with Medicare. So much more in depth than what we have at the marketplace. So strongly recommend reach out to those folks if you have specific Medicare questions. Next slide, please. And so just to kind of recap, really look at all your options. Keep in mind above everything else that we're here to help you. And so if we can help in any way, and I'll put our contact information in the chat after this presentation, we definitely want to help. So no questions too small. Please reach out to us. You're also welcome to look at our website, oregonhealthcare.gov. We got some phenomenal tools that you can utilize there. Look at plans through our window shopping tool. You can locate help from one of our hundreds of navigators and community partners and licensed insurance agents that partner with us through our Get Help tool. Also keep in mind, again, that Oregon Health Plan programs are available anytime, so you don't have a time window there, but you do have that 60-day window on the COBRA and the private coverage. So just some things to keep in mind. And with that, I'll go ahead and take any questions that there might be.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. I don't see any in the chat, and I'm looking. I don't see any icons. Hands up. So I think we're good on that front. So this is the time where if you have any questions for any of the presenters, this is kind of our final opportunity for that. And as you may be thinking of them, there's our contact phone number for the health insurance marketplace in Oregon. Thank you, Michael. As you have your final opportunity to think of any questions, we like to remind people of 211, which you can call, you can go on their website, you can download the app to your phone. You don't need to have a qualifying life event for 211. You just need to reach out to them. What they do is they collect community resources and can help if you're maybe looking for food support or if you're looking for some affordable childcare options, all sorts of stuff. They're great. So we always just like to add that in so that people can have that tool in their tool belt. And again, no qualifying event needed. You can reach out at any time. We just got a question in the chat from Cynthia. I was a little late. This may have been answered, but should we wait to receive the letter to get set up for unemployment, or should we start that process now? So Kelly Duvall, can I bring you back online for a second? Thank you. So I was a little late. Should I wait to receive a letter to set up for unemployment, or should I start that process now?
So the best thing to do is start your Francis Access now, because you're going to need to get that letter. Once you get that letter, then you can open your unemployment insurance claim. But you have to start that Francis Access first and wait for that letter. Once you have that letter and you go through the security process with the letter, then you'll be able to open your unemployment claim.
And I think you actually have to request the letter. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes.
Like in the profile, there's a question, or
I think it's a request Francis Access letter. I think it's actually called a Francis Access letter. So
we need you to go on, start your
your Francis
profile.
portal. Yeah, your Francis profile, and then request that access letter.
And then that letter comes in snail mail to your address. You get a code.
The only way you can receive it is through regular mail. Unfortunately, it can't be emailed, or you can't pick up a copy at the WorkSource office. You can only receive it through regular mail.
and there will be a deadline, so it will expire. So check your mail
Yes.
daily. We like to say if you have an unemployment claim going as well, check your profile all the time because under that action center, there may be something you have to do or more information you need to provide. They might send you a letter through there. There's the option for you to send a message, but also the employment department can send you a message. So lots of cool features with the new Francis account and a lot more ways to access information and send information. So good question, Cynthia. And Cynthia says, perfect. That makes sense. Thank you.
And Teal, I did want to mention, and I don't know if I did, I think I might have forgotten. When as a school employee, you file for unemployment claims and we're in the recess period. Although we send you the questionnaire and you complete it and you may send it right back to us, we also have to send that same questionnaire to your employer. And your employer has 10 days to get back to us. And unfortunately, as an agency, we can't take any action to release your benefits or review that information until we get the information from your employer or those 10 days have expired. So you want to make sure that, you have to be a little patient with that because we can't take any action until that notification deadline is up from your employer or we receive their information back.
It looks like Kevin had a question in the chat, and it may have come just straight to me. Where can I find the owl icon? Is it in Francis?
It is in Francis, and it's just a little animated owl. It literally is just a little owl.
Sorry,
Perfect.
just to confirm on that, it's not on the landing page of Francis. So when you first go to Francis, it won't be on that main page. You have to go to the login page itself. So when you see the option to put your username and password, it'll be right next to that. Or it will always be there once you are logged in. But it's not necessary. You don't have to log in, which is good because if you're having issues logging in, you can just use the chat. And I just wanted to mention about the letter as well. I'm sorry if someone mentioned it, but if you get sent a letter, let's call that the letter one, and then you can't find it, you don't know what to do, you request another letter, it'll generate a new code and your old code will expire. So on Monday, if you say, hey, I can't find it, I need another one, you trigger the second one to come, and then you find the first one, doesn't matter. You now have to wait until the second one comes. So please be aware of that. I've been on phone calls with people where they say, I've just spoken to UI and I've got a second letter coming, but I just found my first one. How can I use this? I have to tell them, you can't do that. I'm sorry. And also as well, 'cause I know we're mentioning getting Francis started now. You can also do the same with iMatch Skills. You could do that today. I would say definitely have it prepared before you go to WorkSource because the first thing we do when you come in is check to see if you've done it. If you haven't completed it, you can't speak with someone. You need to make sure you've completed it to the best of your ability. So as soon as you can do that, the better.
Perfect. Thank you. It looks like Watch Party has their hand raised. So Heather, if you want to come on whichever screen you were using earlier and ask a
Thank you.
question.
Question about the benefit amount. I believe I had a question brought to me earlier and I wish I had it in the email. Apparently school districts don't register wages like a normal position would. So the calculation of the actual wages for that benefit period is off. Is there a way to explain that a little better, or am I too confusing?
So I don't know if that's an individual's particular claim that might be the issue, but educational employers report their wages quarterly, just like any other employer in the state of Oregon under their tax account. The difference is an educational employer is what we call a reimbursing employer and not a taxable employer. So they reimburse dollar for any amount of unemployment paid under their wage, where a regular employer pays a taxable percentage But their wages are reported quarterly, just like any other state of Oregon employer. So I would wonder if someone might be missing wages. Maybe there was an incorrect social security number, some other issue that might have prevented the wages from being available. Or potentially they're in the lag quarter, which is that last quarter, that fifth quarter, where we don't use those wages as part of a regular unemployment claim.
Heather, do you have follow-up?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, let me mute. Okay. The example was before when we had COVID and were laid off, a person was making estimated like $200 a day for their daily wage. And then on Friday, they were furloughed, so they got to claim unemployment for that Friday, and their benefit amount was only recorded as like $25 a day instead of the actual 200 because they split it up between the monthly instead of how it's actually worked.
So I think
Does
in
that
that
make more sense?
situation, if they worked part of the week and they have to report the earnings and hours that they have worked in a week, their weekly benefit amount is going to be reduced. They're under unemployment, you're allowed to get 10% of your weekly benefit amount or 10 hours at minimum wage without an adjustment. After the 10% or the 10 hours at minimum wage, it's a dollar for dollar adjustment. So if they had worked some hours during that first week that they claimed benefits, or in a week that they claimed benefits, their weekly benefit amount is going to be reduced after that 10% or 10 hours at minimum wage.
I think the problem was they understood that part. It's just when they went under their wages that were reported, it was not reported what they actually made because they split it up by 52 weeks, even though we don't work 52 weeks. Is that clear?
So without looking at someone's individual case, what I could tell you is that having worked thousands of claims that are school wages, typically we see less wages during what we would call the third quarter of the year, which is the quarter of July through September, or through September, because it's the recess period. So those wages are typically less because of the 12 months of wages not being paid, but being paid during the period of time that the work is done. So it could be that the weekly benefit amount was reduced because the third quarter of a year was used, which is that break period where there aren't any wages reported because there's no work done. That would be the only thing I could think that would be impacting a weekly benefit amount, is that third quarter, which is typically summer. There's not a significant amount of wages.
That made a little bit of sense. Thank you.
These are great questions, and usually if somebody has the question, others have the same question on their mind. So we really appreciate any and all questions. That's what we're here for. Again, we want to make this accessible, as understandable as possible, strip away barriers, strip away potential pitfalls, provide resources, information. So all
And
questions.
we could even do an example, because let's say someone filed a claim. Let's say someone filed a claim this week. When they're filing a claim this week, we are going to use the wages in all of 2024. So January through December of 2024, those are the wages that we're going to use. The wages in the first and second quarter are going to be the normal wages that the employee would have worked during January through March, March through June. Then the third quarter, July through September, is going to be lower. And then the fourth quarter is going to be back to normal when they're back in school. So they may see that there's not, they make $33,000 a year, but it's in it's going to be in the first quarter of the next year and not in the year that we're using. And that might be what folks are seeing with that, because of that third quarter. We're typically always going to have that third quarter included, if that makes sense.
And that's something else worth mentioning is if people open their initial claim come July 1st, it's going to be different quarters that are used. Kelly, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, so July 1st is a new quarter. And so if somebody files a claim the week of July 1st or later, then we're going to be using the second, third, and fourth quarter of 2024 and the first quarter of 2025. So again, we're still going to have that third quarter in there where there's less wages, but we'll be using second, third, and fourth, and then first.
Yeah, so if anyone got a raise at the beginning of 2025, or if somebody maybe started driving for Uber in the first quarter, if there's additional wages you can report or that would be reportable and seen and help increase a weekly benefit amount, that would be things to consider as far as when to file your initial claim, whether you do it in June or you wait till July 1st to use a different benefit period or quarters and also get a higher benefit amount potentially.
So we always review an 18-month period of time, but we always use the first 12 months or the first 4 quarters of that 18-month period of time to calculate the weekly benefit amount. That last quarter, that 5th quarter, is called a lag quarter, and that's not used for regular calculation of an unemployment benefit amount.
Thank you. All right, so last call for questions. The chat is clear at the moment. I don't see any hands raised. Heather, anybody there at the watch party have anything else to ask?
No questions here, but we do want to thank everybody for their time and effort in this presentation. It's been so helpful, and I wish more people would have been here, but at least we're able to share it when it's recorded and they have reference. So thank you so much for all the information.
Absolutely. And with that, Jason, you can stop recording. We also want to say thank you